Hello. Yeah, kind of weird lighting, but it's the sunlight. Uh, been a minute. Been a while. Uh, Originally, I was going to read some more. Um, good book. I think what I'm going to do for now, because I still haven't gotten a response yet, is I will just occasionally pick certain little excerpts I like. Uh, like The Illusion of Disunity. It's interesting. He basically, in this particular book, um, he goes through breaking down certain illusions in our psyche. Uh, I guess that's the easiest way for me to put it. The illusion of need, the illusion of failure, the illusion of disunity, the illusion of insufficiency, the illusion of requirement, the illusion of judgment, the illusion of condemnation, the illusion of conditionality, the illusion of superiority, the illusion of ignorance. Um, Teaching your children well, seeing the illusions as illusions, understanding the purpose of the illusions, meditating, using, and recreating your reality. Um, Goes on to some more stuff. Very good stuff. Um, Actually, I guess a better way to put it is it's the illusions of the ego. Um, and it's the way he maps them out. Because basically the book is essentially a conversation you're having with the Most High. And the way it gets mapped out is he explains, they explain each illusion and how it builds onto the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. Um, so it's very interesting. And once you have a better understanding of these particular illusions, um, you can see where there are certain types of interactions that we have throughout our life. Um, Relationships is a great example. I've talked many, many times about this, about the conditional or transactional nature that we're taught as far as relationships and love is concerned. And you can see where these illusions essentially create the foundation for those particular behavior patterns. And in a way, they're necessary. Uh, we live in a reality of relativity. You don't know one thing without the other. So without these particular illusions that have predicated, to put it in conventional terms, the modern formation of sin, fear-based lack mentality, these things, constantly comparing yourself to others, constantly thinking you don't have enough, being afraid that you're never good enough, you're alone, you're isolated. Uh, you wouldn't truly understand and appreciate the opposite experience of those things if you hadn't actually experienced those things first, because you have nothing to reference it. This brings me to something else. A friend of mine, I consider a friend, call her Kay. Beautiful person, beautiful soul. um, has recently reconnected with an aspect of themselves, and it's a wonderful blossoming to see. Anyway, she's doing readings again and channeling, meditation, whatever you want to call it. And she recently posted one that I was watching just to watch. Didn't necessarily resonate to me per se, but in it, she was talking about a particular situation about a potential, we'll call it love situation, where uh, somebody felt the need to possess and control. And unfortunately, it's true. Most people think being in love and being in a relationship is about possession and control, and it's not. It really isn't. Holding one captive, as it were. And like she said, not in a good way. No, she cracks me up, man. I love that woman. But point being is, it's very easy to fall into these, for lack of better terms, codependent exchanges where people have a tendency to, and I'm guilty of this too. That's why I can recognize this behavior. Um, I'm a lot more aware of it now than I used to be, but have a tendency to project their fears and insecurities, um, and they see them in. You always recognize the things you like and dislike in other people in the interactions. So if you're constantly feeling or thinking that the person you're in a relationship with is going to be unfaithful, or they're not reciprocating the love correctly or the way you're expecting, blah, 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 you really need to ask yourself why. Not only why do you feel that particular way, and don't look at it as, oh, it's because they're doing this, that, and the other thing. No, them doing this, that, and the other thing is showing you something in yourself. It's exposing something. And in my experience, anybody who ever wants to hold somebody captive emotionally, mentally, or even physically in some extreme cases, um, yeah, it's due to some kind of massive fear or insecurity. Even when it comes out, it's a power move. Same thing. And that's why I said that before. It's really funny that an overinflated and underinflated ego and maladjusted sense of self worth and self esteem will produce very similar results when you kind of break it down to the core. From the outset, it'll look like two extremes of the same of a spectrum. You know, so you hold someone emotionally and mentally captive. Well, there are a lot of ways you can do that. And in one regard, when you have the power, you have the person who's on the so-called ego trip or power trip. It's usually through force and aggression and these kind of things, or blatant manipulation. You know, well, the other way it would be through being very docile and needy or clingy, is common words and terms, but in the same hand, emotionally manipulative. You know, I don't know why that particular subject stuck with me so well. Probably because I see so many people suffer with it a lot. Which brings me back to this book. One of the things I read in this book was, I think it's the second or third illusion, maybe a little both, the illusion of disunity and the illusion of insufficiency. Um, the illusion of disunity is the fact that we allow ourselves to believe that we are separate from the Most High and the universe and all life on this planet. No, we're not. We're just at a slightly different frequency. That's all. Um, as Bob Marley said, one love. And it's so true. But everyone gets caught up on the external. You look different. You don't believe the same thing I do. You don't think the same thing. You're not supposed to. It's one of the beautiful things. There's so much perfection and beauty in the ugliness and imperfection of life. Anyway, pain is a part of life. Painful situations. What is optional is suffering. That you have a choice. I'm not talking about, torture, these kinds of things. I'm talking about everyday shit, even like serious relationship shit. You catch a friend, a coworker, anyone, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter the significance in their life because you decide how significant somebody is or isn't. You kept somebody alive, for example. Nobody really likes to be lied to. Well, there's an exception to every rule. Let's leave that one alone. We're not going to go into role playing, but nobody. So you kept somebody alive. Most people, myself included, usually take that as a form of disrespect. Most people, when they do lie to somebody, it's, in my experience, because of one of two reasons. Either A, well, maybe three. They're embarrassed or they don't. They they don't want to tell the truth because of it, either embarrassment or fear or something along those lines, some kind of inadequacy illusion. Or, they're trying to protect that person in the aspect that they don't want to hurt their feelings, this, that, and the other thing. Most of us take it as a form of disrespect. And that's the thing. Okay, you're going to have your moment, be offended in the moment. But then after that, you don't have to continue to hold a grudge for the rest of your fucking life. That is suffering, and that is optional. Okay, learn from it. Okay, well, obviously I can't trust this person to be 100% honest with me. People seem to, and it's one that I get hung up on a lot because, I guess not only partially due to my experiences growing up, but myself personally, I spent many years as a professional liar, manipulator, and con man. I was a junkie, and I'll admit that. But that's also why I can spot a lie a fucking mile away now, you know. Um, I'm not necessarily proud of that, but I'm not embarrassed by it either. The point is this: maybe I've gone to the other extreme because I make a point now to always tell the truth. Almost to the point of regardless of how it's going to make the other person feel. ultimately, through my own personal experience, I know the truth is going to come out one way or another. I'd rather them get it from the source than to hear it down the line, third party, fourth, fifth, sixth party. Who knows? I hate the telephone game. Ironic, we all have phones now, but nobody ever wants to use them. 717. Hmm. Speaking of phones. Anyway, uh, so yeah, my point is like, okay, a friend of mine is still very hung up on certain situations that she has been through where she was, unfortunately lied to. And it's been years later, and it still triggers them. And I've tried to talk to them about it. I've tried to do all kinds of, help them, guide them, whatever I could. But it's like at the same time, like all I can do is show you the door. You got to walk through it. That's it. I can't. I believe me. If I could force people through that doorway to awaken them, oh, I'd be doing it every day. You know. And I've tried to explain to them, why do you continue to allow this thing to? Why do you keep reliving that pain over and over and over? Why are you dwelling on it? Why are you continuing to condemn and judge yourself and suffer because said person decided to be dishonest with you 10 years ago? And this is what I mean by give your power away. And I think it's finally starting to click, because I've explained it 100 ways to the sun now. You know, it's like I was talking to my coworker about basically this same subject. How pain is part of life and suffering is optional. And how, I think I've done a video on this before. A lot of times when I teach groups, I sponsor people and these kind of things. Um, I have this exercise that I love to do. And it's, I'll go into a group and I'll set a timer for 30 seconds. I'll say, okay, we're going to start. And then I sit there for 30 seconds. And I don't speak. I don't really do anything. I just sit there. And it usually takes anywhere from 10 to 12 seconds, sometimes as late as 20, for everyone in the room to have some kind of emotional reaction and get anxious, try to distract themselves, get nervous. And I haven't done anything except be present in the moment. It's because people aren't comfortable in their own skin. Call it the exercise of uncomfortable silence. You know, it's even more prevalent now than it was when I was growing up. I'm still growing up, but you know, everyone wants to immediately go to their phone and distract themselves. Like start tapping or start looking around. Or they start, anything to be outside of themselves in the moment. And the interesting part about that is, as soon as those people start to have an emotional reaction, they just gave me their power. I now control that room. I control everyone's reality. Because in my experience, most of your reality is predicated on your emotional state and the thoughts you have about it. Good 70-80% of it anyway. It's like in my other video, the story I told about the young woman who was putting air in her tire. I was quite a bit of distance away from this person, walking away from them. Just said, "Hey, I like your hair," and they like got extremely rude and aggressive with me. I was just like, okay, but to the point of actual had like genuine fear in their eyes, and you know, um, I could have let that bother me for days and days, and I did. I feel bad for the person that you have that much fear in your life. I'm sorry, but even that, I don't know what this person has been through. I don't know what kind of trauma they've experienced. I can only assume, and maybe that's wrong on my part, but I can only assume it was something pretty severe for them to have that kind of a reaction to somebody being more than 50 feet away, walking away from them, not even approaching them, and you have the knee jerk reaction of almost terror. That had to be pretty harsh, you know. Um, Granted, some things take longer than others to get over, but I guess the whole point of all that is, I think I heard it said once that, anxiety and depression are just suffering in the imagination and memory. So, on totally lighter notes on issues today, splurged on myself a little. Been working like a one-arm paper hanger, busy, so working on my winter plan. I don't know if I'm going to stay in this particular state. I might head south a little bit. We'll see. Um, I'm currently in Ohio, and I'm thinking about an area down in Tennessee. There's a particular golf course down there I might be able to get into for the winter because they actually work good winter. They don't have harsh winters like we do up here. I might be here at the course I'm at over this winter because we have a massive, massive project coming up, redoing the entire irrigation system. Several $1 million project. I personally won't be directly involved per se. Some they're bringing in a whole company to do all that, but I'll get to witness it, all that jazz. You know, just been busy playing more chess again. Speaking of which, my one chess buddy Kay, get your butt back on there. So, my sister sent me an excerpt from a book she's writing, and it's fucking amazing. I loved it. I loved it. So when she gets farther along in that, I will undoubtedly shamelessly pimp the hell out of that. Read very well. Um, Good character development, descriptive enough that it kept you engaged, but not so wordy to the point of Stephen King. Yeah, good stuff. I'll definitely post about that. I got a few ideas from other stuff I want to try. I've just been so busy with life that I haven't had the opportunity to. No, it's not true. I haven't made time for the things I want to do yet. I'm getting there. Getting there. So I guess ultimately this one's just a long format of a simple message. One, love is not transactional. It is not about possession or captivity or anything like that. find yourself feeling like that, then you need to ask yourself, you need to back up. And I mean, it's one thing to feel and express love for another. It's something entirely different for you to be dependent on that person's love for your well-being. Mm-hmm. No, no, no. And yeah, suffering is optional. So, it's almost kind of everywhere, but just trying to get back in the habit of it. I've been distracted with adulting in life. So, all right, blessed be. Have a good night. I'll be on again soon.